vakya ite te kuriyakya dharma vakya ite te kuriyakya harna koriho mane asha harna koriho mane asha Shri Guru Charane Roti Aise Uttama Gati Shri Guru Charane Roti Aise Uttama Gati Ye prasade pure sarva asha Ye prasade pure sarva asha Kakudana dilo ye jamme jamme prabhushe Kakudana dilo ye jamme jamme prabhushe Divya gyan hriday prakashita Divya Gyan Hriday Prakashita Prema Bhakti Jate Avidya Vinasa Jate Prema Bhakti Jate Avidya Vinasa Jate Virega Jaharutturita Virega Jaharutturita Oti Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Shri Guru Karuna Sindhu Adhama Janara Bandhu Lokanath Lokera Jivana Srila Prabhupada Lokera Jivana Aha Prabhu Kordaya Deho More Parachaya Aha Prabhu Kordaya Deho More Parachaya Ebe Joshu Shukri Bhuvana Ebe Joshu Shukri Bhuvana Aha Prabhu Kora Daya Neha Muri Parachaya Aha Prabhu Kora Daya Neha Muri Parachaya Ebe Joshu Gushu Tribhuvana Srila Prabhupada Pujita Pavana Jaya Prabhupada 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 Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Namah Vishnupadaya Krishna Pristaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Krishna Pristaya Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishecha Shunyavadi Paschatarishutagine Gauravani Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta-vrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Yasomati Nandana Brajabaranagada Gokula Nandana Kana Brajabaranagada Gokula Nandana Kana Yasomati Nandana Brajabaranagada Gokula Nandana Kana Gopi Parana Gana Madana Manohara Gopi Parana Gana Madana Manohara Kaliya Damana Vidana Kaliya Damana Vidana Amala Horina Mamiya Vilasa Amala Horina Mamiya Vilasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Varavang Shiva Suvasa Vipina Purandara Navina Nagara Pura Bhaktivadana Suvasa Rajadana Palana Surakulana Sanna Rajadana Palana Surakulana Sanna Nanda Godhana Rakoala Nanda Godhana Rakoala Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sundarananda Gopala Sundarananda Gopala Yasomati Nandana Brajabaranagada Gokula Dandana Kana Yasamati Nandana Brajabaranagada Gokula Dandana Kana Yamuna Tata Chara Govivasanara Yamuna Tata Chara Govivasanara Rasara Sikha Kripa Maya Rasara Sikha Kripa Maya Ati Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabhara Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabhara Gokodi Vinoratraya Gokodi Vinoratraya Malla Harinama Meya Vilasa Govinda Madhava Navanita Taskara Sri Radha Vallabha Vrindavana Natabhara Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Radha Chama Sundara, Chama Sundara, Hare. Jaya Radha Shama Sundara Radha Shama Sundara Hare Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Krishna Balaram Jaya Krishna Balaram Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Jaya Gauranita Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Oh Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Prabhupada Oh Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Go! Viva! 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 Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Varivaraj Acharya Stotarastha Shri Maresi Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jayam Vishnupad Paramahansa Varivaraj Acharya Stotarastha Shri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Gaudiya Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Dham Ki Jai Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai Nuramanveti Dham Ki Jai Tulasi Maharani Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Yamuna Mai Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Shri Harinam Sankirtan Ki Jai Nitai Gaur Bhimanande Hari Hari Bol Samaveta Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Agurs the assembled devotee Agurs to the assembled devotee Agurs to the assembled devotee Agurs to Shri Shri Guru Gauranga
Shri Shri Radhe Shyam Ki Jai. So I announced this morning that Karnapur Prabhu will be speaking this morning, but actually he'll be speaking about once a month or so, doing he plays a recording of Srila Prabhupada giving class, and then he asks some questions afterwards, and there's a little quiz, and it's very interesting. He makes some points about what Prabhupada said. So that's not going to happen today. He'll do that. He did it last week, so it'll be a month before he does it again. Okay, there's Sunday, so there's feast going on, and a lot of cut up to be done in the temple. In the kitchen. If you'd like to help, you can go in there, or you can bring the vegetables here, and you can cut them. And if you're in there, you can also hear. We're going to show a DVD memory tape of memory DVD of Srila Prabhupada. So I'm going to read from Lilamrita, and this is a summer in Montreal. This is June of 1968. In Montreal, Prabhupada often sang a Sanskrit prayer composed by a great Vaishnava, King Kulashekar. While walking around his room, sitting at his desk, or roaming through the house, he would sing to himself, and the others would hear him. He would chant it. It is a Sanskrit mantra, but to a tune of his own, in a voice that dropped to a deep, low tone at the end of a line. Krishna tvadiya padapankaja panjarantam adyaiva me vishatumana saraja hamsa prana prayana samaye kafabhata pittai kantadvarodana pidau smarana kutaste. In India, almost 20 years ago, Prabhupada had translated and written commentary on this and several other verses, the prayers of King Kulashekar, for his Back to Godhead newspaper. Now, during the summer of 1968, while still recovering from his heart attack of a year ago, he sang this particular verse often. And several times he explained its meaning to the devotees gathered in his room in the evening. Quote, "Swans have a proclivity to stick their long necks under water and wrap them around the stem of the lotus flower. So King Kulashekar is praying, my dear Krishna, may the swan of my mind enter the network of the stem of your lotus feet. He is praying to do so now, at the present moment, while he is healthy and can chant Hare Krishna and entangle his mind in Krishna thought. Therefore, King Kulashekar wishes that he may die immediately, because he fears that if he waits until later, when the time of death comes, he will be choking. The elements of his body will be disturbed, and there will be a death rattle, like gar, 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 gar. How will it be possible then to remember Krishna?" Prabhupada's health, however, had improved, rising early, dictating Srimad Bhagavatam, going for morning walks, taking full lunch. He was the healthiest he had been in months. After lunch, he would nap. At least he would try, although many of the floorboards in the house would squeak loudly when stepped on. Later in the afternoon, he would often ask for watermelon or cantaloupe, and in the evening, either he would meet with devotees in his room or go to the temple for Kirtan and a lecture. After returning at night, he would call for that puffed rice set. Puffed rice, peanuts, fried potatoes, and slices of cucumber. So Prabhupada was well, yet more than once he remarked to his servants, "If I become sick, do not take me to the hospital. Simply let me chant Hare Krishna and die." The summer of 1968 was a relaxed time, without many outside engagements. Prabhupada would spend most of his time in his apartment on Prince Arthur Street, a 5-minute walk from the temple. In his room, he would often meet with disciples visiting from various centers in the United States. Sometimes he would sit in a chair on the front lawn speaking to visitors, or in the later morning sit out back in the driveway while Gaur Sundar massaged him. One day, while Srila Prabhupada sat in the warm, late morning sun, some of his disciples came and sat on the ground at his feet. "The sunshine is so powerful," Prabhupada explained. "There are planets where the trees are miles tall, just being supported by the sunshine, and all the planets are supported by the sunshine. It is so powerful." There are planets where the trees are miles tall. There are planets where trees are miles tall. They're very tall. They're many miles long. One of Prabhupada's reasons for coming to Canada was to get permanent residency status in both Canada and the United States. While in Boston, he had received an order of denial from the Immigration Department directing him to leave the country. This was 1968. Jai Shri Shri Radhe Shyam Krishna Balaram Shri Gaur Nitai Shri Prabhupada Ki Jai. For the past 3 years, except for his 6 months in India, Prabhupada had managed to extend his stay in the US by extending his temporary visa. But now, on a technicality, he had been denied permanent residency. From Montreal, he wrote the district director of the US Immigration in Boston. In your order of denial, you have clearly mentioned in paragraph 4 that your denial order was not on the basis of my qualification of religious minister, but on your discretion for the reason that I submitted my application just after a fortnight of my arrival in the USA, and as such I was not a bona fide immigrant. I did not know what was the technical mistake on my part in this connection, but I honestly submitted the application after consulting your Calcutta American Consulate and our Indian Embassy in Washington, D.C., and I have their letters of confirmation with me. In your notice of denial of May 3rd, 1968, you have mentioned that there is no appeal for this decision. As such, I did not prefer to appeal in this decision, but I left the USA as per your direction. Now I am simply requesting you to give me your valued direction what to do next. Please tell me what to do next. He's asking, very humble. Brahmananda wrote Prabhupada from New York explaining his plan to get a lawyer and to appeal. But Prabhupada, now skeptical of US lawyers who took money and resolved nothing, chose instead to make a new application as religious minister for ISKCON. Although U.S. Army immigration had denied his application, ostensibly on the grounds that he had been in the wrong immigration status, Srila Prabhupada suspected that the State Department was not overly fond of Indian Swamis. Quote, I understand that the government of the USA is disgusted with so-called Swamis because they have exploited the people in so many ways. That is a fact, and if I would have been in the government, I would have also considered like that. So they have not got a very good opinion about these rascal Swamis. Under the circumstances, it will be difficult to get me admitted as a Swami, although I am not a Swami of the rascal group. But we have to prove it by action that this Swami is not like those Swamis. This remark was made by Mr. Alan Burke of the television company. He introduced me to the public as, here is a real Swami. And he showed me all respectful compliments. Anyway, I am not after respectful compliments by the public, but I am concerned more about my disciples. I want to see them quite able to preach this sublime doctrine of Krishna consciousness, and therefore I wish to stay. Otherwise, I am not attracted for any place, either heaven or hell. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So our regular Sunday feast program will go on at 4:15, and Mother Akuti will give the lecture today. Here are the devotees who have assisted their Guru in dressing the deities today. Sri Sri Radhesham were dressed by Nitai Priya. Chota Radhesham by Sachi Sundari. Sri Sri Krishna Balaram, Mother Mantrini. Chota Krishna Balaram by Mother Madhuri Gopi. Sri Sri Gaurnitai by Mother Draupadi, Chota Gaurnitai by Mother Govinda Mohini, and the Gurus and Lord Nishingadev by Ramanya Prabhu. And I'd like to welcome a visitor from Miami, originally from Chile. What's your name again, Prabhu? I forgot. Your name? Ekanamsa Shiva Das Prabhu. Welcome. Hare Krishna. So now we'll show a memory DVD of Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna land affair, purchasing of Hare Krishna land, which we now have our big Radharasa Bihari temple on. Prabhupada was advised about this land by one devotee, Tusta Krishna. Prabhupada was in New Delhi at the time. He came down Sister Krishna had made friends with one Mr. Nair, who was the, I think, owner, huh? It was the owner of Free Press Journal. Free Press Journal, yeah. Anyway, it's a very long story, which His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj will be writing in detail about. He's writing a book now about this. But it took, Prabhupada got into a negotiation with him. And after a long time, we signed a sales agreement. And this sale agreement, Mr. Nair had really no plan to fulfill the agreement. And after a certain amount of time, it ran out of time. The sale agreement ran out of time. And we could not sign the conveyance, which is the final document of change of title. So a long, long, long period ensued in between, in which Mr. Nair tried to remove the devotees from the land. It's a very, it's big history, part of the history of ISKCON. And there are many heroic battles that were fought. Prabhupada said it was like Kurukshetra. Even to the point of the temple, the temporary temple was demolished. Prabhupada installed Radharas Bihari at the Bombay Pandal, and then he put the deity there and he prayed to the deity, "My dear Lord, now I'm requesting you to sit down here and I will arrange everything for you, but don't leave." And Prabhupada made this promise to the deity. And, so many things happened trying to get the deity and the devotees off the land. And wherever Prabhupada was all over the world, this was just constantly in his mind. Hare Krishna land, Hare Krishna land, Hare Krishna land. So finally, Prabhupada came back, and, after a long tussle, again, we were in Hyderabad. And Prabhupada arranged for Mr. Nair to come to meet him. We were staying at the house of one Mr. Panalal Pitti, a very wealthy man, the wealthiest man in Hyderabad city. And Mr. Nair came with his guru, who was some type of a pseudo-guru. And the purpose of bringing his guru was that Mr. Nair felt that Prabhupada had some type of mystic power, and he would put some spell on him and, take the land. So after a big dinner, Prabhupada was yawning, and Mr. Nair and his guru immediately said, "Swamiji, I think that you must be getting tired. We should let you rest." And Prabhupada said, "I'm very tired." So he retired, and immediately Mr. Nair and his guru went to sleep in the next room. So after about 5 minutes, Prabhupada's secretary called me into the room. Prabhupada wasn't sleeping at all, although Prabhupada always slept after eating. Everybody knows this, but he wasn't sleeping. So Prabhupada said, "What are they doing?" So I said, "They're sleeping." He said, "Go in there and wake up Mr. Nair, but don't wake up the guru." So I went there, to the side of the bed, and I shook Mr. Nair's arm. "Mr. Nair," I said, "Prabhupada wants to see you." Shh. And I pointed out, "Your guru's sleeping, don't wake up your guru." So I took Mr. Nair in the room, and Prabhupada just started to preach to him. And, Mr. Nair was just sitting there, and he's listening and listening, and gradually Prabhupada got him to agree to sign the agreement all over again. And he told Shamsud and me, "Immediately go in and type the whole agreement out." So we went in and we started typing on the mechanic, typewriter, old typewriter Prabhupada had, typed it out. Prabhupada got it signed. And by the time he finished signing, the guru got up, and he came in, and Mr. Nair, had signed away the land again. So, Mr. Nair just kept hitting his head. He said, "What have I done? What have I done?" Prabhupada said, "It's okay. Shishi Gornitai ki, Sisi Rukmini Dwarkadish ki, Sri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Devi ki." What do we do? Is there an arti now, or organizers?
Yes, you can go until 4:45 tomorrow.
All right. So, but it was done. There was nothing that could be done. So at that point, Prabhupada sent us back. We had to accompany Mr. Nair back to Bombay. And we took this old flight, hopping flight, it was bouncing like anything, propeller plane. Myself, Shem Sundar, and Mr. Nair. Anyway, as it turned out, the lawyers, our own lawyers, were actually working in cahoots with Mr. Nair and Mr. Nair's lawyers. And so, within a period of 10 days, they convinced Shem Sundar Nair that it was the greatest blunder to go ahead with this contract. So, once again, you know, this is another fatal blunder. We canceled the contract. We let it run out without fulfilling it. So Prabhupada, I think, was in Pune, and I called him up to tell him the good news. So I said, Srila Prabhupada, you know, I wanted to call you to tell you. He said, what has happened? Did everything go through? And I said, no, Srila Prabhupada. We canceled the contract. And all I heard was click. Prabhupada just hung the phone up. Prabhupada came back, and then for about the next 2 months, Prabhupada would call in one member after the other, and he would sort of parade me in. And he'd say, this foolish boy, and he'd show him the contract, and he said he canceled the contract. He canceled the contract. Anyway, this was such a huge blunder. So, the thing I feel about these, and there were more such blunders that went on in time, but I think that the wonderful quality of Prabhupada through all of these is that he never gave up on a devotee or a disciple. No matter how many mistakes a devotee might make, he wanted to see if a devotee would continue to want to serve Krishna and to serve him. In that instance, with the cancellation of the contract, Prabhupada did not reject me. He gave me the opportunity to go through, a hellish year and a half after that with Giriraj Maharaj, where we had to go, all the time into Bombay, sitting in the lawyers' chambers, and just trying to rectify the situation. So it's a symptom of Srila Prabhupada that he never gave up on a devotee. He said about Krishna that when you chant Hare Krishna even one time sincerely, that Krishna will never leave you alone. So I feel the same way, that Prabhupada never leaves you alone. Even you may make many mistakes in his service, still he does not reject you. But he accepts you just as a father would accept a child, a parent accepts a child. He expects that there may be mistakes. He will chastise you like anything, but he never gives you the sense that he doesn't love you. So despite all of the grand mistakes that were made, I never got the sense that Prabhupada loved me less because of them. And I always felt encouraged and never felt discouraged, even when, these mistakes occurred.
So there at the Palais, the question and answer period came. Prabhupada said, any questions? And everybody, immediately all the hands shot up. So it was a lot of questions. So Prabhupada, first he asked one, all right, he pointed. So this man stood up, and he wanted to hear himself talk more than he wanted to ask Prabhupada a question. He said, first, Your Divine Grace, how are you enjoying your stay in Australia? Very, warm. How do you like Australia? And he said, Prabhupada said, I like it very much. Everybody clapped. Yay. And Prabhupada said, I like every place very much. They all kind of went, And he said, because everything belongs to Krishna. Therefore, I like every place. Because everything belongs to Krishna. So the next man shot his hand up and said, well, what do you think about Meher Baba? And Prabhupada said, who is he? So this is the way Prabhupada's technique was to diffuse a person like that. And then the third man was, there was a couple other questions, but then the third man, with another man, he put his hand up. It was a boy, a young, 22, 23-year-old boy. Very kind of puffed up. He stood up and he said, "Today I choose to be God. Today I choose to take the responsibility of the whole universe upon myself. Therefore, I am God." So you could see the Prabhupada, when he got mad, his lower lip would quiver a little bit. If anybody's been close enough to Prabhupada, when he actually gets angry, his lower lip begins to quiver. So his lip began to quiver, and Prabhupada took a deep breath, and he said, "Oh," he said, "my God is powerful." And the man said, "Well, I choose to be the all-powerful God." And Prabhupada said, "Well, I choose to kick on your face with shoes. Can you stop me?" And the man said, "Well, give me some time." And Prabhupada said, "My God is powerful all the time. Why should I accept you as God?" And then the whole auditorium burst into laughter. The man was mortified. He was feeling very bad and everything like that. And then, just like that, Prabhupada turned and he said, "Please, don't waste your time on this nonsense. Try to be godly. Don't try to be God." So he changed immediately from this lion, ferocious lion, to this soft, beautiful rose. And this was Srila Prabhupada's quality, that he would use very harsh language. He would deal very strongly when something was offensive to Krishna, but at the same time, he saw everyone as an opportunity for him to extend the loving, tender hand from Krishna and from his spiritual master. He saw everybody that he came into contact with as actually sent by his spiritual master for him to bring back to home, back to Godhead.
1972, September, Srila Prabhupada's flying into Dallas to install Sri Sri Radha Kalachandji. He arrives in Love Field via American Airlines. We usher him into the VIP room at Love Field. And Prabhupada sits on this makeshift dais and immediately starts talking about the 3 ways to fly. He just sits on this seat and he says, "So, there are 3 ways to fly." So the reporters are all there and they're taking down this 3 ways to fly. I'm standing next to this woman reporter and I'm looking at her pad. 3 ways to fly. Yes, Prabhupada starts, yes. Pigeon. He didn't say swan, he said pigeon. Pigeon, mantra, and machine. Yes, formerly, Prabhupada said, formerly people knew the art of training up pigeons, he said, and you just get on the pigeons and just fly. So the woman's writing pigeon. and then he says, and then mantra. Mantra, simply by vibrating mantra, the yogi knew how to ride on the sound. Like that. So mantra, all the reporters are writing this down. And then machine. And then so this lady shot up her hand. And she said, "So, Swami, if you know all these different ways to fly, then why did you choose to fly American Airlines today?" So Prabhupada said, "To be one with you." And the lady turned to me and she said, "I like that man."
Once Srila Prabhupada was talking about his relationship with Dr. Misra, who you know had the yoga camp in New York. And Srila Prabhupada was saying that how he was good friends with Dr. Misra. Although when Dr. Misra would speak Mayavad philosophy, Srila Prabhupada would protest very vehemently and argue. But on a personal level, they were friends. And when Dr. Misra became sick, Srila Prabhupada personally cooked for him and nursed him back to life. So from this I understood that there's a difference between philosophy and one's personal dealings. That on matters of philosophy, Srila Prabhupada argued with him very strongly. But personally, they were friends.
When Srila Prabhupada came to Sanskrit Rath Yatra, and there was devotees who had a infamous prasadam distribution program in Laguna Beach, and they made a lot of Lakshmi. So he came up to Srila Prabhupada, and he gave Srila Prabhupada $30,000 cash. It was like in $500 bills or $100 bills, I don't remember. And so Srila Prabhupada, real jokingly, said, oh, he actually knew how the person got the money. He said, how did you get this money? He said, well, Srila Prabhupada, I sell drugs. And Srila Prabhupada said, oh, I used to sell drugs too. He said, what pharmacy do you work for?
Oh, one time he asked me, I was 18, so I was getting pimples, acne at the time. And he said, oh, what is that on your face? And I said, oh, they're pimples, Prabhupada. So he said, oh, you should put little tilak. So I would go and put tilak spots on my face. And then it was a little, you couldn't really walk around the streets like that. So next time he saw me, he said, oh, what? He asked me about my pimples again. He said, well, what about the tilak, or why I wasn't doing it? I said, I can't walk around like that. It's just too... He said, oh, you should take a little olive oil and boric acid, and you heat it in a spoon over the fire, and make it a little ointment, and you put that on. And sure enough, that produced like a salve that looked just like any ointment, and it wasn't so... that showed his personal side.
And later on in the years, I had a wonderful experience of being alone with Srila Prabhupada when he was in Hawaii. I was on my way to Japan to try and distribute books there. Actually, it was just that the Japanese people were so pious, they were giving so much Lakshmi, so the devotees were going there to try and build Vrindavan. But Srila Prabhupada asked me to come up to his quarters, and he just wanted to talk about book distribution. And he was sitting on his chair there, and he was asking me all sorts of questions about, you know, how did people like the books? What kind of people were taking the books? What did you tell them? And it was such a wonderful experience to talk with Srila Prabhupada because it seemed like it was his favorite topic, and he was so joyful. So he would say, well, what kind of people are taking the books? And, you know, I was straining my mind. I said, well, doctors and young people and diplomats. Prabhupada said, diplomats? What countries? And so then I had to go down a list of every country of anyone that had ever taken a book. And then I remember I said something like, well, someone took a book from Albania. And Prabhupada said, Albania, that's behind the Iron Curtain. He said, and I said, yes, Prabhupada, they take it in their suitcase, and because they have diplomatic immunity, no one can open the suitcase. And then he started to laugh, and he leaned back, and he said, ah, we cannot go, but Lord Chaitanya can go.
Later on here in Los Angeles, when Srila Prabhupada was staying in his quarters, and at that time he was working very hard on his books, and every morning after Mangalarti, they would make announcements that, don't bother Srila Prabhupada, please. Everyone wants to talk to him, but he's very busy. Only GBCs and sannyasis should have darshan of Srila Prabhupada. So I didn't accept that philosophy. So I made an agreement with Rakshana Das, who was Prabhupada's personal bodyguard here. He used to stand at the bottom of the steps to let me upstairs one time. So one night at about 9:30, all of the big guns had come down the steps. They just had a big meeting with Prabhupada, and it was very late. And I was, very afraid, but I was a small temple president, and I had a $50 donation, big time, to go see Srila Prabhupada with. So Rakshana made sure that everybody was gone, and he talked to Shruta Kirti, and Shruta Kirti walked me upstairs, and we went in Prabhupada's room. And at the time, Prabhupada was standing looking out the window with his back to the door and chanting japa softly. So Shruta Kirti said, oh, Prabhupada, your disciple from Phoenix, Arizona has come here to see you. And Srila Prabhupada turned around very slowly, and I was like shaking in my boots, because the atmosphere was like, you know, why are you bothering, you know, Prabhupada, and he's very busy, and you're a nobody in this society. And when Srila Prabhupada turned around very slowly, and I was shaking, but when he turned around and I could see him, he had a radiant smile on his face. And the emanation of love from his heart was such that he made me feel like I'm his long-lost son and I've come back to see him. And it was a very personal, loving exchange, and it had nothing to do with the atmosphere of fear or what have you done for me, or are you a big devotee or are you a small devotee. It was the spiritual master showing his loving feeling for his disciple, and I really, of course, I'll never forget that.
During the struggle to get Hare Krishna land, we did not have any proper accommodation for Srila Prabhupada in Juhu. So he used to stay at different places that we could arrange for him. So we had arranged for Srila Prabhupada to stay at the house of one of our good friends and life members, Mr. P.L. Sethi, who is building a house in the Juhu scheme. And before the house was completed, Mr. Sethi invited Srila Prabhupada to stay there. So Srila Prabhupada was in a room on the first floor upstairs, and he was talking with some respectable persons. And suddenly, one poor Indian laborer appeared at the doorway to the room. And he was, you know, quite dark complexion, wearing some little cloth around his waist. And he walked right through all the respectable persons in the room up to Srila Prabhupada's table. And he put something on the table. It was a bundle of flowers. And then he put his head down in obeisances, stood up, and walked out of the room. And Srila Prabhupada was so moved by this offering that he couldn't think about anything else for many minutes. At first he was completely stunned. He was just completely silent. This simple laborer, how did he even know that Srila Prabhupada was in the house? How did he get the idea to collect some flowers from here and there? And somehow he got the idea, he walked right in, offered the flowers, paid obeisances, and walked out. And Srila Prabhupada remained silent for some moments. And then he said, just see how he has come with devotion. And he quoted the verse, Patram Pushpam Phalam Tvayam Yume Bhakta Prayachati. That anyone who offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or some water, I will accept it. So Srila Prabhupada said he offered with devotion some flowers, and how much I have been affected. And then he said, just imagine the greatness of Krishna. I'm just an ordinary living entity. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But even Krishna, if he's offered just a leaf or a flower with love and devotion, he will accept it. So, how great is Krishna?
And also, he was giving me instructions about how to distribute books. First he asked, what did we say? And so I kind of just explained, we asked the person, you look like a spiritual person. This is a book, from ancient India. It has so much knowledge. And then he pulled out the Srimad Bhagavatam and he read the verse that this Bhagavad Purana is as brilliant as the sun. And he read it very slowly and very carefully. And he said, if you just tell people this one verse, it is so wonderful. How could they resist? He said, so you don't need to say anything except the Srimad Bhagavatam will sell itself. And he also was talking to me about women. and how in this age it was actually a benefit to be a woman to be able to preach, because he was saying that in Kali Yuga, things are so degraded that people don't trust men. He says, nobody will allow a man to come up to them hardly, or they would never let a man knock on their door and open the door. Yeah. So then he said, but he told a story about when he was a young man, they were selling this hair oil, this Brahmi hair oil, and they would send these young women, respectable young women, door to door, and then everybody would open the door and buy Brahmi hair oil. And Prabhupada said, it was not even ever proven that this Brahmi hair oil had any medicinal properties. He said, but as women, this is Lord Chaitanya's plan, that, he is sending all these nice young women, and so you can help these poor conditioned souls go back to Godhead.
Later on, I was in Chicago Temple, and Srila Prabhupada came to visit. And he was at the airport. He was getting ready to leave. And it was just after that very famous controversial press conference about the 64-ounce brain and the 32-ounce brain. And we were distributing big books at the temple as Srila Prabhupada was leaving. And Prabhupada looked over and saw one of the Matajis distributing big books. And he smiled this huge grin and said to the devotee that was next to him, he says, my female devotees, my women disciples, they have 64-ounce brain.
I came with Brahmarupa, another devotee, and we were also, both of us were hankering after Prabhupada's association, like I said. And Prabhupada used to come out this door for his morning walks. And Brahmarupa had a really bright idea one time. He was going to go up and get a whole pail full of flower petals and shower Srila Prabhupada when he came out the door. But what happened is Brahmarupa got up there and he made a ball. He was so nervous, he was like this with the petals, like this. And when Srila Prabhupada came out, he went, and the ball of flower petals like hit Prabhupada on the head, right? And I just went, there goes Brahmarupa's spiritual life, that's it. But Prabhupada just went like this, and we went, Jai Srila Prabhupada. It was so wonderful. Thank you very much. How you going?
And on March 2nd, 1972, when I was on my way to Africa, after Prabhupada had laid the cornerstone for Mayapur, I went into Srila Prabhupada's room and I said, Srila Prabhupada, I'm going to Africa now. I hope this gives me an opportunity to increase my service to you. And Srila Prabhupada went like this, and he said, service to Lord Chaitanya, service to Lord Chaitanya, service to Lord Chaitanya. And when I ended up there alone, other devotee had left. Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to me saying that I'm very much pleased at the responsibility you've taken to spread Krishna consciousness in South Africa at such a young age. It made me feel connected to Prabhupada and the movement, even though I was 2 miles from any neighbors and 2,000 miles from any devotees. And when Prabhupada said, I am praying to you that you'll have the strength and enthusiasm to carry out this mission, somehow or other I had that, even though I was 19 years old and alone. I try to remember that today. Please, Prabhupada, pray to Krishna and have the strength and enthusiasm to carry out whatever my mission is.
I was born and raised here in the Dwarka, and I remember during Guru Puja, my Mataji brought me up in front, and all I can remember is seeing this old wise man and the awe and reverence that everybody is treating him with. And I'm not quite scared and I'm not quite happy. And my Mataji, she has to push me. And I go up and I'm, can I have a cookie, And Srila Prabhupada, he just takes a cookie off the plate and he hands it down and he smiles. And all of a sudden I'm not frightened anymore. I'm all, this guy's okay, he's giving me a cookie. And that's what I remember. Thank you.
Prabhupada had a devotee there who was a Sikh by birth. He joined us, and Giriraj Swami and myself, and this devotee, his name was Chaitya Guru at the time, Chaitya Guru. So he was driving us around, and we would be going, making members and collecting money to build a Vrindavan temple in Bombay. So after a while, this devotee somehow got it in his mind that he should go off on his own and leave and make his own way spiritually in life. And he took up living on Juhu Beach with one bogi yogi, with the intention of learning the art of passing a coin from one ear out the other ear. So before he had done this, he was already canvassing from our members, collecting on his own. So I had approached Prabhupada, that Srila Prabhupada, this person, we have to write something to our members to warn them about this person. So Prabhupada was a little hesitant to do that. Then finally, but he was not ready to give up on this devotee. But when this devotee finally started to live with that bogi yogi, I said, Prabhupada, now it's reached the limit. This person is on the beach, living with a bogus yogi, trying to learn how to pass the coin from one ear out the other. So I said that now, it's the end, it's finished. And Prabhupada looked at me and he said, you do not know about Lord Nityananda's mercy. I said, why, Srila Prabhupada? He said, because there is no end to Lord Nityananda's forgiveness. And later on, sure enough, that devotee came back. And again, Prabhupada tried to help him. He gave this person sannyas even. And the person eventually left. But I met him maybe a year ago, and he's still on some spiritual path of some type. But Prabhupada was so clear, he looked at me, and he said, there's no limit to Lord Nityananda's mercy and compassion. So Srila Prabhupada is the manifest representative of Lord Nityananda Prabhu. And his forgiveness is like that. So I think that in terms of both our dealing with our own shortcomings and in terms of dealing with each other, we have to always remember that Prabhupada never rejected a devotee. There's very, very, very few instances in the history where Prabhupada, did so. It was very, 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 very rare.
But one of Srila Prabhupada's first disciples was in another place in India, perhaps Calcutta, and he had started to smoke ganja again. And so maybe the temple president from Calcutta phoned and gave the news to Srila Prabhupada. So Srila Prabhupada said, tell him that if he does not give up this bad habit of smoking, I will reject him. After the phone call, one of the devotees asked Srila Prabhupada, is that true, that if he doesn't give up smoking ganja, you will reject him? And Srila Prabhupada said, no. I cannot reject any disciple. I only said that to encourage him to stop smoking.
I came to the LA Temple in 1982, and as I think the first representative of the new devotees who were not fortunate enough to get Srila Prabhupada's association. I came, and my first service was as a servant at ITV. I think Siddhanta may have recovered from that by now. And one of my responsibilities was to duplicate tapes for distribution. And one of the tapes that I duplicated many times was Your Ever Well-Wisher. And as such, I got to see Prabhupada and observe his nuances, hear the tenor of his voice. And at the time that I'd come to the temple, I had been exposed to many of his books. I'd read Bhagavad Gita a couple of times and pretty much had worked my way through Srimad Bhagavatam. I worked for ITV for 4 days a week, and on the weekends I went out on book distribution. And I recall at that time, somewhere around that time, we were distributing copies of Srila Prabhupada's biography. And I had read the first couple of sections of that. And I recall I was on Sankirtan, and I was explaining to someone the contents of this book. And I was saying to this person that someone someday is going to make a movie of this man's life. And I was telling him about how he came to America and so many of the pastimes. And I think that the combination of having seen Prabhupada so many times on film, having read his books, and having been exposed to his biography, was so meaningful to me. And I was explaining this to this person. So at some point, this person interrupted me and said, "So when did you meet him?" And it hit me like a hammer that I never had. And I forget, in all the years since, that I have never met Prabhupada. And to me, that is something which speaks of his purity and his potency. And I am so touched by hearing everyone's association with Srila Prabhupada that I just want to say that for those of us who have never met Srila Prabhupada, but still feel that connection, your words are truly nectar for us. Because through you, we can get those experiences. And I think that you should not take that lightly. I think that you've been very, very blessed. And for those of us who have not been so fortunate and who are eternally envious of you, that is a very great responsibility that I hope that you will continue to share with us and give us that mercy.